That's what my friends and I started doing years ago, because rather than fight them off, everybody picnic and tries to find a place in the lawn and does all that. And if you go Saturday night, it's just kind of open space and you can kind of do what you want to do. So Saturday night. Look back there. Those people are all in line to get tickets to go to the White House. The White House tickets are never for sale, but they do give them out on the day of the tour of the White House. And they do the tours Tuesday through Saturday from 10 until 12. They open the White House Visitor Center, which is right across the street from the Willard Hotel, at about closed down the city of Washington. They gave 90,000 people the day off. They closed down the metro. They allowed no cars in the city. And we had these people with all their tremendous amount of security. Just imagine 40 heads of state with all the entourages they go with in the limousine. And this was their headquarters. And it worked just beautifully. It wasn't a hitch or a glitch, and everybody had a very safe and pleasant time. We are on Pennsylvania Avenue, and this is our Main Street, USA. This is what we call the Avenue of the Presidents. Every 4 years, when we elect a new president, the inaugural parade comes down from the Capitol, where the president takes the oath of office, and goes down Pennsylvania Avenue to the reviewing stand in front of the White House. We have a lot of parades here in Washington, but they're all held on the next street over, which is Constitution Avenue. This is reserved to be anything that could be a security problem. The manhole covers are all sealed. The street is just wonderfully secure. That's Benjamin Franklin you see standing over there, and he was our first Postmaster General, so it's very fitting. He's standing in front of the old original post office building. Now, I'll let you in on a secret. The Washington Monument is closed. It will be closed till the end of July, so you can't go up and see the wonderful view from the top of that very tall building. But you can go up in the glass-enclosed elevators right here at the old post office. They go up 315 feet in the air. You go up with a park ranger who tells you wonderful stories about the city. And they're open every day till 4:30, and it's a great way to get a nice view of the city. And also there's a food court there, so you can get something to eat and drink while you're there. It's the headquarters for the National Endowment for the Arts. We haven't had a lot of success with this wonderful old building. It was saved from the Wreckers Ball when they redid this street, and they've done it over a 30-year period. When John Kennedy rode up this street, coming from his inaugural at the Capitol, he was really shocked by how awful this street was. It had seedy places like pawn shops and bar rooms and nasty bookstores, and he said, oh, this is just disgraceful, we need to change it. And so he got his friend Daniel Patrick Moynihan, the senator from New York, to head up an organization called the Pennsylvania Avenue Development Corporation. And they worked very, very hard over a 30-year period to get rid of all the seedy, awful things, to add things that were compatible to what was here, and to preserve the buildings that had some architectural merit. And so now we have a beautiful ceremonial street. In the 30s, when Franklin Roosevelt was our president, and I tell you that for a reason, because we're going to be stopping at Franklin Roosevelt's memorial. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about how these buildings came to be when we get there. Now, right across the street here, you're looking at the FBI. This is the J. Edgar Hoover building of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. They do tours of this building Monday through Friday. It's a whole block long. You can see it occupies the entire block. And you have to go in on the other side on E Street to go on a tour. The lines are very long. I will warn you about that. Sometime if you're coming to the city again, I'll give you a little tip about something you can do. Call your congressperson or your senator. They do have very few tickets to get in the White House, but they can get you in many other things earlier than the public. Did you all get a peek at it? Did you notice what it said in the front? Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Well, when Franklin Delano Roosevelt was alive, they asked him what kind of a memorial he wanted. He said, nothing bigger than the top of my desk, and that's what they gave him. They gave him a big slab of marble with his name on it. And people come here from other countries, they have no idea what they're looking at, but we have certainly changed all that. We have built a beautiful new memorial to him. This building to the right is our National Archives. This is our nation's attic. This is where we keep all our records from the Revolutionary War to the earliest census records, and of course, most importantly, our charters of freedom. The Declaration of Independence and the Constitution and the Bill of Rights are located in that building, and this is a good time to go and see them, even though the lines can get long, because they're going to close off that side of the building. And when they do, the documents will not be on display anymore for 2 years. They're building a new safe depository area for them. They are presently housed in a steel and concrete. Actually, it's like a bunker. And they actually raise and lower it by a button at night, and they go down under the ground into the bottom of the building, where supposedly they'd even be safe from an atomic attack. But the container is wearing out, and they have to replace it. So they're going to have to close off part of that. Now there's Man Wrestling Trade. This is the Federal Trade Commission, and this is the tip of the Federal Triangle. And right across the street from it, you can see there's a building with columns and a flag waving in front of it. This is the West Building of the National Gallery of Art. This is one of the greatest galleries of art in the world. We have the finest collection of Italian paintings and sculpture outside of Italy. We have the only Leonardo da Vinci painting in the Western Hemisphere. It is free. It's open to the public. It has a wonderful series of restaurants and cafeterias. And it is connected underground to the building across the way. Now look to the left here. This is the Canadian Embassy. You can see the maple leaf flag up there. That is our largest embassy in Washington. And it's the only one on this strip of land between the Capitol and the White House. And they have the best view for the fireworks on 4th of July from their roof, too. Now, underneath this street, there's a walkway, and it connects the West Building of the National Gallery to this building, which is the East Building of the National Gallery. This is where we have our 20th century art. We have a lot of our big shows here. The building itself is a work of art. It was designed by the Chinese architect I.M. Pei, and it's really quite a remarkable building. It's worth it just to go and look at the building. They gave him a piece of land shaped like a trapezoid, and he built the building in 2 triangles. And everywhere you go, you see the triangle and the marble and in the glass photo up. And usually they have a professional photographer who hangs around over there, and he just puts all the school groups together, and they get their pictures taken. That is a reflecting pool, and it honors Ulysses S. Grant, who was not only a great Civil War general, but he was also President of the United States. And you can see they're posing right there for their group picture. We're going to take you over in front of the Capitol. You see all those blue things over there? Those are porta potties. They are getting ready for the big concert. And when you see that white tent over there, that's where the concert is going to be Sunday night. That doesn't even begin to be the number we have down here for some events. Now look to the right here. This is going to be a new museum. This is going to be the Museum of the American Indians. And we expect to open it in 2003. You see, they've already dug a big hole in the ground. And we're beginning to already bring some of the Indian artifacts from New York City where they've been housed. So that as soon as the museum is finished, they'll be able to move these exhibits right into the building. And this is a mess right now, this area to the left, but this is going to be simply beautiful. This is our botanic garden. It looks like a big erector set over here on the left. And this is all the trash that goes with the building. But this is going to be our national garden. It's going to cover 3.5 acres. It's going to be absolutely spectacular with a water garden and a First Lady's garden. A replica of the rainforest is going to be here. And this, once we get this building finished, it's been torn apart and redone. They are going to bring back our great collection of tropical plants, which are being housed in Florida and California while they're doing this. And it's going to be a marvelous addition to the city. We all miss it a lot because it's a beautiful place to take groups when you're at the Capitol, just go in and kind of rest. There's lovely fountains. And this gives you a very nice view if we can get past these trucks. They're getting ready for the concert, and they're moving in all the audio equipment. You can see they're moving in everything. This is where the performers stay while they're waiting for their appearances on the stage. And this is the actual stage where the National Symphony Orchestra will perform. But remember, come out on Saturday night, and you get a really good view. 7:30 on Saturday night, 8 o'clock on Sunday night. It lasts about 2 hours. Great place to have a picnic, too. Bring your picnic and bring your kids and have a good time. This is the west side of the building, as I said, and the west side, it's pretty much blocked off right now. I thought we'd be able to see it a little bit better, but it gives you an idea of how the Capitol looks. The Capitol was originally built as a result of a contest. Back in the early days, we moved our government here in 1800 from Philadelphia, and before that time, George Washington, who had chosen the site for the new capital city, was allowed to pick the site for the President's House and the Congress House. And he chose the President's House site, and he actually did some of the surveying around the grounds. And he laid the foundation for the Capitol building in 1793, 1 year after he had started the ago. They took freedom off the top of the Capitol. First time she'd been down in over 100 years. But she's been hit by lightning a number of times. She's way, way up high up there. And they took her down. She had a little facelift and a manicure and a pedicure. And they filled up all the holes. They kept her down here on that courtyard for about 6 months. And they actually sprayed her with in the land is seated. They are here from the first Monday in October until June every year. They get about 6,000 to 7,000 requests to hear cases here every year. They hear maybe 200. We have 9 justices, all of them named by presidents. One of the 9 is the Chief Justice, also named by a president. He can be picked from the court or he can be named from somewhere else. Justice Rehnquist, the President, the Chief Justice, was chosen by Richard Nixon, and he was promoted to Chief Justice by Ronald Reagan. We now have 2 women on the court. Ronald Reagan was the first to name a woman. Her name is Sandra Day O'Connor. And the second lady was named by President Clinton. Her name is Ruth Bader Ginsburg. The court really is the final resort. Once a case is heard here, it can never be heard again in any court from around the land. And they don't do cases with juries and evidence. All that has already been done in lower courts and appellate courts. So what they do here is make a final decision. They have 2 lawyers for each case. They get 30 minutes each to present a case to the court. There are the lines waiting to get into the Capitol. It can be a very long wait. The Capitol is open every day. You get a special slip to come in and do your research. You request books. They come from any place in these 3 buildings. It can take as long as an hour to get a book, or maybe even more. They have finally computerized the system, can translate into 400 different languages and dialects. 2/3 of the books are not printed in English. It's an amazing place, and it's so beautiful. It's really worthwhile to go and see it. And they have some wonderful things you wouldn't expect to see here. They have the contents of Abraham Lincoln's pockets the night he died. They have Thomas Jefferson's first draft of the Declaration of Independence. They have Harry Houdini's magic tricks. You can go learn how to be a magician. They have a wonderful gallery that is devoted to Bob Hope. And Bob Hope came here a year ago. He's in his 90s now, late 90s, and dedicated that. He gave all his jokes and all his memorabilia to the Library of Congress. So you can go into a computer file and pull up all the jokes you heard all those years ago. And they have wonderful film clips of his television shows and his movies. They have a gallery dedicated to George and Ira Gershwin, the famous American composer. And they have the Founding Fathers papers. They have Sigmund Freud's papers. They will be open to the public when his last patient dies. It should be very interesting to read what Sigmund heard on the couch. Now, these are our House office buildings, and these are larger than your Senate buildings because we have 435 congresspersons. And they are Longworth, and the biggest one is named for Sam Rayburn of Texas. Oh, we got a lot of Texans aboard? Really? Where are you from in Texas? My son lives in Austin. I love Austin. I know, and it's home to Mark Eaton, my son. That's why it's really important. I lived in Texas for 6 years, I want you to know. I lived in West Texas. I lived in El Paso for 6 years. Very west, yeah. I had 6 wonderful years in Texas, and I have 2 children who were born there who are honorary Texans with a decree from the governor. Now, right across the street here, this is part of on the left-hand side, see the big fountain in the middle? If you've ever seen the Statue of Liberty in New York, the name Bartholdi may mean something to you. Monsieur Bartholdi also created that fountain, which is part of the Botanic Gardens. They always have a lovely garden over there. Now, if you were up in the Capitol, right in the middle of the crypt, which is the lower floor, or the rotunda, which is the main ceremonial room, you would see a white starburst on the floor. And right at that starburst is where the city of Washington is divided into 4 parts. We have northeast, northwest, southeast, and southwest. The city was designed by a Frenchman named Pierre-Charles L'Enfant, who was highly a little confusing when he decided to put the center of the Capitol as the median point. And he numbered the streets the same on both sides, and he lettered the streets the same on both sides. So we have 2A streets, we have 2 First Streets. And you have to be careful when you look at our street signs. In the lower right-hand corner, it will tell you where you are. Now, we're going up Independence Avenue, and you'll notice we don't have just streets. We have big boulevards in Washington, very much like Paris, France. And if you're looking to the left, you're looking over into Southwest Washington. This is where most of our government buildings are located. Capitol Building up to the Lincoln Memorial. This is where we have our big 4th of July celebration. We're getting ready for our big folk festival. We have a folk festival here every year in July, and it's wonderful. We feature pool with fountains, which in the wintertime is a skating rink. And the sculpture is all 20th century sculpture. It's a great place to go. There's a castle here to the left. Now this is my favorite museum, just because I think there's so much to get. And they covered the scaffolding with kind of a blue plastic wrap. And it was paid for by the Target department store. Or Target, as we call it here. Target paid $2 million to put that plastic wrap around the Washington Monument. And they wanted to say that when they took the scaffolding down, they took it all down, they hopefully in pieces. And they were going to transfer it out to their headquarters in Minnesota and set it up. And the Holocaust Museum is a very, very beautifully done depiction of a very, very horrible, horrible thing. And it's not for those who are faint of heart. It is not recommended. If there's a single mistake on a bill, it can become a very valuable relic. So they have to very carefully watch. You know, the city of Washington was located at the confluence of 2 rivers, the Anacostia and the Potomac. You never hear about the Anacostia, but it exists. And this is West Potomac Park. This is reclaimed land. They actually went down into the river, dragged up all the silt, and they built 2 totally different parks, East Potomac and West Potomac Park. And West Potomac is where both the Lincoln Memorial and the Jefferson Memorial are located. And that is the Jefferson Memorial you're looking at straight over there. It's forever. And he's holding in his hand a rolled-up copy of the Declaration of Independence. That was his greatest achievement. You can visit his gravestone, and on his gravestone it never even mentions that he was President of the United States, or that he was the first Secretary of State, or he was the second Vice President. Here he is, standing up 19 feet tall. He's looking straight across the water into the Blue Room of the White House. But on his gravestone it says, "Here lies Thomas Jefferson." The building of the monument was that when people...
Mommy, come me the RV. Mommy, come me.
Mimi?不要过去了。
And at that point in the drama, when the laugh rose, he simply shot the president directly in the back of his head. Lincoln did not die there. He died the next morning. He died over across the street in a place I went and visit. Right here to the left, this beautiful Beaux-Arts building is headquarters for the American Red Cross. We're going to make a right turn here. We're going to take you by the south lawn of the White House so you get a little peek at where President Bush had a T-ball game 2 weeks ago. You know, he's a great baseball fan. He was a former owner of the Texas Rangers, and he decided that from the south you won't like this man. This is William Tecumseh Sherman up here on the horse to the left, the man who marched through Georgia and burnt Atlanta. You don't care, Texas, huh?
National Trade Building. The building has 3.1 million square feet in the building. And to give you an idea how much square footage that is, if you built a skyscraper with 20,000 square feet to each floor, you could build a skyscraper that would be 155 stories high.
Why you give me a nickel instead of a quarter?
Looking off to your right this time, you see the world's tallest freestanding masonry structure in the world, the Washington Monument. 555 feet, 5 3/4 inches tall. When it was opened to the public in 1887, it has steam-driven elevators. And now the elevators took 15 minutes to go up and 15 minutes to come down. And we consider it very, very unsafe. In fact, only men and boys could ride the elevator. Women and children had to walk up 898 steps and walk back down. On the left, it looks like a castle. That is called a castle, because that is the headquarters of the Smithsonian. And the Smithsonian is known as the nation's attic.